7:53 on the Talk of the Town, Talk 100.7 FM. It is Jason Aiello, Rocco LaDuca, Mark Wilbur in studio. Mark kind of quiet this morning. Mark Piersma wandering around. Mike Galimi wandering around, sitting in studio as well. Yeah, Common Council President will be joining us after the 8 o'clock hour, but we're going to get back to Congresswoman Claudia Tenney on the phone line here this morning. We do this each and every Wednesday around 8:30. And, Congresswoman, I wanted to get your thought on a comment that took place on our show on Monday. The former mayor of the city of Utica, Tim Julian, weighing in on, well, your race in a sense, and commenting on Assemblyman Anthony Brindisi, and a conversation, I guess, that came up during the time of the ouster, or the conversation of Shelley Silver. So I'm going to play a little clip for you, and I want to get your thoughts on this. So this is the former mayor of the city of Utica, Tim Julian, on the show on Monday.
And I had a chance to come face-to-face with that Assemblyman Brindisi, and I said to him, I go...
this was at the time?
This was at the time, yep. And he came up to me and said, he goes, hey, how you doing? I said, good. He goes, oh, man, he goes, you're trying to make me a pariah down in Albany. I said, why is that? He goes, well, he goes, calling for the ouster of Shell Silver. He goes, I said, you do the right thing. That's all I want. I mean, and this is... I'm not calling this out to say that someone's lying or someone's this or someone's that. I'm just saying do the right thing. One of the things I've always...
There you go. So the former mayor of the city of Utica saying just do the right thing, and says face-to-face conversation, the assemblyman says, why are you making me a pariah? So.
Because I think the point that might have been lost in the comment is that Julian was saying that Shelley Silver was a bad guy and they need to get him out of there. And why was the assemblyman not coming forward and being more aggressive and calling for his ouster? And I think that was the response that Brindisi gave the former mayor at the time, was that you're trying to make me a pariah among the Democrats.
I wasn't privy to the conversation, but that is the narrative down in Albany. When I first called for Sheldon Silver, it was like an earthquake. Everybody was frantic. How can you do that? They're going to cut your brake lines. Don't do that. And I go, this guy's corrupt. And this is when he was covering up sexual harassment charges, by the way. I don't know if I'm not sure when Tim was talking about that, but maybe it was later in 2015 when I continued every time we kept renewing my pledge that he's got to step down. Everything was so corrupt in the assembly, covering up sexual harassment, totally unfair, leverage that he was using against members. People like Anthony Brindisi, he was just using upstate Democrats. Because they had such a lopsided majority, the Democrats they could give him what they call marginal votes, like on the SAFE Act. He didn't, when they get to 76 votes, there's all kinds of Democrats upstate that they can give them a chance to vote on things because they don't want to hurt their chances of getting reelected in upstate. Everybody knows that. The newspaper doesn't cover that stuff, of course, but that's the truth. And Rocco worked down there. He knows how it works. I've sat there and watched when bills come up that they know will hurt, and the Democrats get them in. They're New York City based, and they let the so-called marginal Democrats in upstate New York vote no, so that they can keep their jobs and keep their vote for the speaker. So that's what they're doing. But the big thing is that this is typical of Anthony Brindisi. He says we went and voted for him for speaker after the sexual harassment scandal, and then after the New York Times came out and said he was going to get arrested for all this the corruption that he eventually got convicted for twice. And then he got hauled off in handcuffs. And then Anthony somehow makes this claim, which he's running all these commercials, that he stood up to Silver. He did not stand up to Silver. Silver was already done. It was over. It was just a determination of who was the speaker. And then he got up and said, we're young guns, and we're going to reform the assembly, and we're going to do everything new. And so they put in a new speaker a few weeks later, and guess what they did? Anthony Brindisi voted down every single reform that was put on the floor of the state assembly to change things the way that they are. They didn't change a thing. It's exactly as corrupt and terrible as it is. They just have new leadership. So when he tries to say, yeah, I stood up, you know what? He was criticizing me the other day for defending taxpayers and people who have had their property values hurt, or school districts who were robbed of $1.8 billion, if you look at the total sales and property tax of the Oneida deal in 2013. That devastated our region. It
Claudia,
was a terrible deal.
I don't mean to cut you off here, Claudia, but we have a very little time left, and I want to try to have you address this listener's question, if you can, very quickly. I'll just read it. Last night I was sitting with my in-laws and some of their friends who are in their 80s, and they were going to vote for Tenney last night. All of a sudden they were not going to vote for you because they feel that you are going to take away their Social Security, and they need that money. So their question is, why do you need to do that?
Of course we're not doing that. We were trying to protect Social Security and Medicare, which is ridiculous. But this is, if you look at every campaign, every cookie-cutter campaign across the nation, Anthony is no different than every other Democratic opponent. They have nothing to run on but scare tactics. They're trying to scare senior citizens. We're trying to protect them. And this is, at least Anthony has a record that's a horrible record. They're going to take away the Medicare benefits that senior citizens have by imposing this Medicare for all. There are going to be wait times. People are going to be standing in line waiting for everybody else to get ahead of them. We're trying to protect that. And unfortunately, they just keep scaring them, whether it's Social Security, this phony story about Spectrum that somehow I can be bought for $15,000 when Ray Halberter and Nancy Pelosi and George Soros and some billionaire whose whole mission from California is impeachment just put another $400,000 into Anthony's campaign. All the dark money that's going into Nancy Pelosi's super PAC to prop Anthony
5 seconds,
up,
Claudia.
That's what's going on. That's, that's the truth.
Mm-hmm. All right, Claudia. Thanks for joining us on the
Thanks.
talk. You got it.
Talk to you
Take
guys.
care. CBS News.
This is CBS News.